You are listening to Ice Cream for Breakfast with your hosts, Tara Chase and Kevin Hansen. Do you know what that means? Well, there's a great guest lined up. So sit back and enjoy some ice cream.
So I'm going to start this way. It's always random how we start. And I was thinking about this earlier. So there's a guy named Dan Clark. Do you know Dan Clark?
I don't know if I do.
So Dan Clark, it said he was one of the top 10 motivational speakers in the world. And I'm in Park City, Utah, doing a job, and they play his intro video. And it's got the Chicago Bulls. What's the song?
Like when they would come out to the basketball
game. I'm trying to think who does that.
I don't know about
Eye in the
AC/DC.
Sky, I think.
Is it?
And then all of a sudden it's Larry King going, Dan Clark, do you know who Dan Clark is? And then it was just like all this stuff, and it went on for I swear an hour, just his intro. But I realized he had a lot going on, and I feel like Sheli G needs that kind of intro.
Let's find it.
But I don't.
Okay, find it on YouTube.
It might be easier.
The Chicago Bulls. You come in like a basketball game and just
exactly.
It's what I've always wanted. Didn't you know?
Come in with a video with Larry King as a 95-year-old.
I think you should come in with us.
Yeah.
We're a lot better than
I prefer you guys.
Okay. Yeah.
So our guest today is
no offense, Larry.
Sheli G. There's so much to explain about who you are.
Okay,
Sheli, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
we're so excited.
Maybe it would be easy just to give us a little synopsis of who you are and where you came from.
Where I came from. It's such a big...
Let me ask you
Right,
a question first. What's the first memory of life that you have?
Jeez, first memory of life.
She's all, I remember leaving the birth canal.
Right. I don't remember that. My mom does. I was a big baby. I almost killed my poor little mother.
I love it.
Tiny person, and I was way too big. Gosh, I don't know. It'd probably be like, I didn't like the beans from my grandmother's garden. They had a weird velvety texture. They were like a cat's tongue.
Like a green bean?
Yeah.
Like a string
green
bean.
bean from her garden.
Okay.
And I can remember being really little and sitting at the table, and my mom was like,
Eat your beans.
Yeah.
So they still had fuzz on them after you boiled them or cooked them?
Yeah. The texture of this particular bean felt like a cat's tongue, even after they were totally cooked and all the things. Yeah. So my mom left the room, and my sister and I proceeded to think we were so smart that we went to the backyard and we put them under a rock.
We buried our beans.
We're like, and my mom always knew everything. She had a sixth sense. She was very intuitive, and it was like, she just knew. Either she was spying on us or she just always knew what we were doing, no matter where we were in town. And so she knew, and so we got in big trouble, and that's kind of sad. That's the first thing I remember.
I'll take the green beans in a can. These fresh things are under the rock.
So if you're having an event at your house and somebody says, I've got a 7-bean salad I'll bring over, are you like, yeah.
Oh no, I don't mind beans, because for some reason, no beans.
That's random. I love it.
No beans have that texture other than my grandma's.
I'm finding them.
Go for it.
I'm gonna plant them.
Great.
I think it's planting season. We're in spring. There's lots of plants. We're gonna plant some velvet green beans.
So where did you grow up?
Spokane, Washington. Yeah.
Spoke-Compton.
Yeah.
Also known as.
You know what's weird? I was just saying the other day to somebody, it's really actually rude to say that to somebody who's from Spokane. So I'm not sure why people say it.
I have family that are from there, so when I say it,
but I'm not your family, so I find it really weird.
Don't say that about my town.
I just think it's so weird because it's like, why would you say that? Like even if you think something in your head, why does that come out of everybody's mouth? Because even nice people, it comes out of their mouth, and I'm like, do you realize
even
it's
nice people,
super rude thing?
It's not the mean people; it's the nice ones.
Is it kind of like you can make fun of a member of your family for whatever purpose?
Yeah.
But if someone outside your family makes fun of them, you get all offended.
Well,
yes.
Yeah, and also if you've been to Compton and you've been to Spokane, they're really not the same. So I just find it really odd.
We used to call it that. I went to school at the University of Idaho, so we would also like to dodge Moscow and get over to the city. So we would obviously hop in the car and drive over to Spokane.
Yeah.
And that's where it all began.
Yeah. And so I came to Idaho by way of NNU. It was NNC
Oh, okay. Yeah.
then. But yeah.
And that is Northwest Nazarene College. That's now Northwest Nazarene University.
Yeah.
And what were you
Super
studying?
cool.
I was studying English education, speech communications. I thought I wanted to be a teacher in the school system. And then I was student teaching in Caldwell. Not in the grade, because I was going to do secondary. And I was student teaching because God just knew he had to get me out of this track, that it was not the plan for my life. So he had me student teach in a 6th grade classroom in Caldwell. And this little kid, Poncho, I swear he hated me. Every day he would set booby traps for me. Poncho was out for me. And one day, and we had to wear skirts and dress really nice. And one day he opened up this paper clip and taped it to the edge of his desk, and as I walked by, like, it ripped my dress. And it was great because it was this lightning rod moment. Have you ever had one of those moments where you're like, oh, I actually know I'm not meant to be a teacher. Thank you, Poncho. You just did me a huge favor, and I'm out. See ya.
Poncho would be what age at this point? I hope you're listening.
I don't know, but Poncho, I owe you so much.
He's probably 19 now, right?
No.
I'm just...
He's still in 7th grade. He didn't make it very far.
Yeah, he did.
He made it to 7th and he's still there. Watch Poncho be the teacher now.
Right.
Jokes on him.
I have substitute taught, and you were a teacher.
I was, yes.
And I'll tell you that age of like 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, the worst.
Oh, they were my favorite. So it's
Maybe,
just a difference.
Did you have a specialized group of people that you weren't teaching like biology or... I mean, were you teaching something that maybe they wanted to be in your class?
Not all of them wanted to be there, but I feel like 6th grade, 7th grade, they're just still sponges trying to fit. And so I think they're still very impressionable and you can make it fun. And I had the hooligans, don't get me wrong, but yeah, they were my favorite. And that was, I taught my student teaching experience was 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Well, I just knew it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Or that I would die trying. And so...
well, when you have a Poncho paper clip.
It's just not
Run.
Good. So I got out of there. And of course, as every English major does, when you don't go into teaching, I got a job at a finance company. Even though I hate math, but even back then they had these DOS-based computers that were terrible. But it was a huge learning curve, my first professional job, and taught me a lot because I was doing lending, I was doing collections. We were typing up our own real estate loans. We were going door to door and collecting. I mean, it was hardcore lending, like hard money. And so I learned a ton and learned how to sell and learned kind of what I was made of at that point.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do collections.
That's interesting. Door to door. I can't imagine. Because that's like...
It was scary. Like,
I
bet they don't do it today.
I bet they
the
don't.
liability. I bet somebody died doing that too. And so like there I was just super young going door to door collecting.
I'm here to get your car.
Yeah. And they're in there doing drugs and, not wanting you to get their car. And so it was kind of a problem.
Here.
So,
there was a time, I think, insurance people actually went and collected your premiums at your house, like back in the day. When I say the day, but I think when like my parents were
the 90s?
younger, there were people who came to collect, just like the paper boy collected the money for the newspapers.
Maybe it's because we went from, I don't know, we'll have to do research, but a 1-car household, and then if one person left with the car, how would the other person get the bills paid? Right.
Or we also had more cash then, I would think.
Oh, right. Not so much
wrote
debit
somebody a
and
check.
credit. Check.
Anyway.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, good
so
for
did somebody
you.
say, oh, here, I'll write you a check for my car and then you can leave me alone?
No.
Oh, was it car collecting? You weren't a repo person.
We did repo, but we had people that did that. Yeah.
They could drive it off the driveway.
Yeah. They would just go hook up and take off. They didn't give you a chance to pay. At that point, you haven't paid long enough that we're not doing that anymore. Right. It's just you're going to lose the rig. One time we repoed.
By the way, I love your laugh.
I do snort, you guys.
She said,
I need oxygen.
I don't know when it's coming.
I just need oxygen. But when I was working in the Idaho Falls branch, I worked there for about a year. And we repoed a car, and it wasn't until it got there, and we came out to look at it to see what kind of condition it was in. And there's a little dog in there. It's like, oh snap! We're gonna get paid on this one. This will be great
because they want the dog back.
We got the dog. We're like, if you want your car back and your dog,
you will pay.
Fifi's fine for now, but make your payment.
You only have 24 hours. It's a ransom.
Oh man!
Oh my word! If there was a TikTok on it, that would be awesome.
Oh my gosh!
Back in the day, this is what we did with your pup.
So you're in finance.
I was in finance.
You learned a lot.
I learned a ton, and what I learned was I was paying this mortgage broker a lot of money, even though I was doing all the work on his loans. And so after a while, I'm like, man, I was right. I mean, we'd give him one check for one deal, and it'd be more than I made in a month. And so finally I decided, I think I'm going to do mortgage loans. So, way back when mortgage brokering was new, I had a mortgage brokerage in a few different cities in Idaho, and that was fun. And it was fun until it wasn't. I just realized it wasn't my eternal calling. I loved it, but it was like the refi boom, and it was the .com crash, and my desk was always like this with files just piled up with files, because they kept going, it's going to go paperless. I mean, they told us that 25 years ago. It was like, it didn't go paperless till like freaking COVID.
And it's still paperwork.
But not like it was. I mean,
correct.
There is a lot more online, but I mean, they told us for 1,000 years it was going to go paperless. They also said the rates wouldn't go below 6%. So I guess we all got lied to, but I enjoyed it, but it was so much paperwork and so much data entry. And I realized I loved the people and the problem solving more than the paperwork. And I had to flip that. So I got out of doing that, and I was starting to do a lot more with personal development, and I was starting to do more speaking, and really enjoyed that and consulting. But I knew I had to build that business, so I shut down the mortgage practice and went and sold cars for a year, because I thought, what's the hardest, most misunderstood salesperson? It's the car guy, right? And so I went and worked with 35 men as the only female car salesman at Lithia Ford.
Wow.
They had a 2-week training, and I thought, well, I probably need at least a couple weeks of training, because I have no idea anything about cars or trucks. And I still don't, by the way, but I did go sell them, and it was really fun. I did that for a year, and, then just kept working on the speaking and the consulting and the coaching and all of that.
So
wow, that's fantastic.
It was super fun.
I love the part of me and 35 guys without the truck and car experience. Good for you.
I had no idea. And it really does play to strengths, right? Because like when I got in there, I thought, this isn't going to be my forever job. I want to make a bunch of money, but I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to be able to just be self-employed. So I needed to make, some monthly money. And I knew it would be challenging, and I do like to challenge myself. I didn't know how much people hated car guys till I did the job. And I was like, people walked on the lot furious. People you had never met before. It was very different than mortgage. And so I was just like, oh my gosh. And so that was such a good challenge. And also just realizing I'm never going to learn all this product stuff, because by the time I learn it, I'll probably be out of this business, So I just would talk to everybody. I was very inclusive. I would go talk to people that didn't look like they have money. And you know what, in Idaho, sometimes those people have a lot of money. And so I was always in the top 5 car guys, and I sold rigs when they told me that, when I did the opposite of what I was told to do. They'd be like, don't talk to anybody that's getting an oil change. They don't want to talk to you. But I'm like, those people are a captive audience. They can't go anywhere. They're getting the oil change.
They like me, and I'm talking.
Go chit-chat with them.
Good for you.
Those were some of my best sales. Yeah.
How were you received by the males? How did you do in comparison to them, and how did they receive that with
the
you?
Clients?
The other salesmen.
Or the other salesmen. Some of them were awesome. I mean, some of them were just such professionals. They made great money. They had clients that loved them, and they were awesome. Some of them were just, like everywhere. I mean, you're going to like some people and not. And there are some strange people with felonies on their record in the car business. There are, because they can still do that and make good money. And so there was like both, so I think most of them were respectful, and they were awesome. Sometimes they get a little mad, because they'd be like, this girl is so dumb. How is she selling? Like, I remember one time with the oil change guy, like there was a guy looking, do you guys know what a Lightning is? Like an F-150 Lightning. It was like a truck, but they supercharged it.
Okay.
They supercharged it. And every Ford dealership, if your ratings were high enough with customer service, you'd get maybe one. Like in Idaho, we'd get maybe one. And so, there was this side sticker on top of the sticker. So it was worth a lot of money because you only got one. And there was a guy just standing there looking at it. It was on the showroom floor and he was just gazing at it longingly. And so I just went up and stood right beside him. And I just was mirroring his body language. And I'm like, so do you want to take it home today? That's all I said.
And he said,
yes, I believe I do. That was it. I sold it. And it was like the biggest paycheck I ever got from one deal was that deal.
I love it. Good
Friday
for you.
we're having a meeting. And of course, a bunch of the guys were mad.
Yeah.
That I had somebody lined out on that. I'm like, well, apparently
you only have
didn't.
one and I got there first.
Apparently you didn't.
It's a race.
It was still here. I don't know. So, and then Friday we were at a sales meeting and, most of the guys, they'd go immediately and find out how much they made on a car deal or whatever. I just would go on to my next car deal, So I didn't know how much I knew I made a lot, but I didn't know to the penny. And they were talking about the deal, but I didn't know they were talking about my deal. They're like, oh, somebody just did the biggest front end gross that we've seen in years. And I'm just like, do. And the general manager is like, Sheli, we're talking about you, right? I'm like, oh, yay. Yeah, that was so fun. And these guys are just like, how is this girl making any money?
So either they celebrated that you left, but management was like, please stay. Good for you. Way to take the challenge.
It was fun.
I think that what I'm kind of hearing is, and I really appreciate what you just said, is that you knew that what you were doing before wasn't your thing, but you were willing to stop what you were doing, not even maybe necessarily knowing what your thing is, and just move away from it and do something different.
Well, I kind of knew what it was, but I also knew I couldn't just, if you have a side hustle, right? Yeah. I started getting asked to speak and I got really involved in personal development and, started teaching personal development classes too, but I didn't make enough yet to do that full time. So I didn't know how I was going to build all that out and get it to full time, but I knew I still had to do something in the meantime. So yeah, I think a lot of people wait until the side hustle is fully baked and, but then you're working 2 full-time jobs, which is really a grind. You can only do that for a short period of time before you burn out. So I knew that I needed to shut down what I was doing. It was like, no. But yeah, I had that gap and I'm like, I got to fill this gap and make money. And why don't I learn something? I was single. I didn't have kids. It's like, if you want to go break your back and, work in the car business and pound the pavement in the cold and in the heat like they do. I mean, it's not an easy job. It was like, now's the time to do that. So I like some of those challenges. I'm a challenge accepted kind of girl. If it makes sense, if I can learn from it and use it.
Well, and apparently it's courage because you think of even going back to NNC, you're in college for 4 years before you student teach, and then to have it be like, I don't want to do this.
Poncho.
Yeah.
So many times I had a dentist, a dental guest in one of my careers classes, and he stood up there and we thought he was going to tell the kids about how great it was to be a dentist and here's the paychecks and here's the cost reward, and he told them, I don't like my job. I've got 12 years left and I can't wait to retire. I haven't liked being a dentist. And you should have seen the impression of all these 10th, 11th, and 12th graders like, wait, what? And he's like, I make all the money in the world, but I can't wait to be done with my job. So he was there to motivate them on, if you don't like it, don't do what I did. Just because you paid for all these years
Good
of
for him.
dental school to get where you're at just for a paycheck, you have to go and do what you love. And if you early, he's even said, I knew early on, and you did too. You knew early on, and you knew, I might have to fill the role here, but you can see the end in sight. If it's going to end, I'm going to move on and find courage to do something better.
Choice. Yeah, let's make a new choice.
Good for you.
Because some people wait and they wait and they wait
long.
because the pain of not knowing what's coming next is almost makes them more scared than the pain of whatever the agitation is now. Because you feel agitated if you're not in a forever role. And I think that's natural. It's good.
Sure.
It agitates you up and out if you're not meant to do that thing forever. And if it's meant to be a chapter, it helps get us out of there. But some people just keep trying to stitch it together because of the fear of what's next. And then you end up leaving really badly and poorly. Like one day you just snap or your health gives out.
That's what I was going to say. It's security in some case, because I've been there too when I took the leap from education into real estate. And I thought to myself, oh, I'm just so used to this. And I don't hate it. I love it. I love 80% of what I'm doing, but I'm like, I know there's more.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to try it, but I still had my security blanket. And then once I tried it, it was like, run and just keep going. You know, now you're flying. So it does take courage for sure. And there's a lot to be said about what security does in those situations to take the leap.
And not only just in jobs, but in relationships. Because I think...
Ooh, insight, Kevin. Tell us more.
Go
deep.
I don't think my ex-wife is listening. I doubt it. But anyway.
If you're not listening, you should.
There were questions a day before we got married. And I backed out.
Oh, you were having questions about
I didn't know
decision.
if it was the right thing to do. And I canceled our wedding.
Oh,
and then I left
before?
her house and I felt guilty.
Sure.
And I turned around after a half hour and drove back and made amends and got married anyway.
Is this within 24 hours?
We got married on a Friday and this is Thursday night. Yeah, it was within 36 hours.
Okay.
And so, but then the irony is then 18 years later, it's like, I got to get out of this, but it was sucked to be there. And I'm just being honest. And we read something about to be really good at what this is, you got to be very bluntly honest with people.
Sure.
And I think that after 18 years, it felt so comfortable. It sucked to be there, but it felt so comfortable to be there. So it took me 18 years to finally go. So you were smart to go at the beginning.
Yeah.
Poncho.
When you know what you know, you know what you know, you can't unknow it. And so.
Ooh, that is big.
Right.
When you know what you know.
You can't unknow it.
If you do a
like
podcast,
that.
it should be like Life Without
I'm
Poncho.
Writing that down. Or Life Because of Poncho.
Right. I mean, he was definitely the
it.
catalyst. There would have been someone else. It would have been Stacy next, or I mean, sometimes
for sure.
God will continue to send you like that. He'll continue to slap you in the forehead, and then you're like, oh, it was just a tough day. And I think that's one of the things that's hard about both relationships and like entrepreneurialism.
Sure.
Is a lot of people are be like, oh, you got to go through the hard times. You just grit it. And I think a lot of times that can be true until it's not true. Until
You got to do it. You can't just bail. Right.
Until it is supposed to actually end. Right. And so that's hard because there is no template that's going to work for every job or business or relationship. There just isn't.
Right.
And so
and even that evolves, right? Like we evolve with our families, with our children, with that coworker, that boss, that manager, and you're evolving the whole time. So
some people evolve. And some people stay exactly about the same, very rigid, very, very inflexible. And so then as you're evolving, like they're just kind of there.
Hanging on.
And I think that's a big deal in relationships too.
Sure.
Where one is growing and the other one is just kind of like,
having fun, staying flat.
And
baseline.
Yeah. And
there's no up or down.
But I think also with relationships, when you get out of the first one, then you see how much better it is. So maybe the next relationship, it's easier to get out of because you know what happens if you wait too long. And maybe that's the same with business. Once you've made that change the first time, the second or third or whatever it is, becomes easier.
I think part of it, at least for me, is like you can survive it.
Right.
Because the pain, and I would say that relationships are a lot more this way than a business or career, because we could have a gajillion businesses and careers. There's a lot of vehicles to contribute or serve or help, right? Relationships are harder. They're gutting, even when you know it's the right thing to walk away or whatever. So when you survive that gutting, searing agony that you just have to get through in the grief cycle, then you can live through that again, because there's this irrational. It's why a lot of people go back to really toxic, unhealthy things over and over and over again, because there's this moment of agony. It's interesting. Brene Brown does the most amazing. It's a book, but I love her workshop she's done at HBO, Atlas of the Heart.
Yeah,
and she talks about all these different emotions because she's an emotional research expert, right? So she doesn't just talk about it in an airy-fairy way. It's very deep dive research, science-based. And she said, we really misunderstand when we're feeling emotional, what that emotion is. We think it's just happy or sad or guilty, and we label it very quickly because our little control freak inside of all of us thinks, oh, we'll just label everything and then we'll know what to do. And so when we mislabel, we oftentimes do the wrong thing. And I was coaching someone at the time who was going through a tragic divorce. It was tragic in every way, mentally, physically, emotionally. Yep. He'd been married to a narcissist and for a long time, and it was like a nightmare, getting out of it. And he was like, oh, I think maybe I need to go back so I can like save the relationship with my kids. And I felt like I knew what would happen because when you understand narcissism, like true clinical, it's kind of textbook, like what they do. It's interesting once you really crack the code of it. So I knew he would go back and it would be so much worse. And at some point he'd just pop right back out. But I could see also what he was doing. He felt guilty because the kids were upset because they had been told all these things. And it was like, maybe I could stitch it back together because even though it's painful, this is more painful than that was, right? But the problem is you can't turn back the clock and things would escalate, which is exactly what happened. And so I'm watching this show. And when she started to talk about anguish, I went, oh, That's it. He thought it was guilt. He thought it was the feeling that was so deep and full of shame was guilt. Right. And what it really was anguish. And it was unavoidable, and you just have to feel it, and you just have to live through it and do whatever you can do in a healthy way to survive it till you can get through the other side of it. But if you think it's guilt, if you misunderstand it for guilt, that means I have to fix it. I have to rescue. Maybe go back. So it actually makes sense why a lot of people misunderstand that because they're just not even thinking clear. And I'm just going to go stitch it back together. And it's like,
or
there's
it's
a
your
reason
fault.
why.
Like you start to feel, I want it out. I got out. And then I go back, right? Because I was in that situation and I went back several times knowing it was catastrophic. Yeah. And you do feel guilt from that, which should be. And now that I'm learning too, that grief, it's actually like a bowl, if anyone's ever heard that. And I think it's Mel Robbins too, like she's great. So there's like this bowl. And if you named all the emotion besides happy, sad, emotions are anger and depressed and anguish, like you said earlier. Anyway, all the emotions in the bowl. But if you think of a bowl, you're up and down. And you might cross the bowl, but you might fall back down into the bowl and you start climbing out. So grief is a tricky thing.
It is.
And little triggers will come up and you'll find yourself, I've just fallen to the bottom of the bowl again. I got to start come back out. And you'll find it with enough. And I do think it's important to label the differences that are coming into that realm
and
of
have
the way
somebody
you think.
help you when you're in that space, because oftentimes we are completely irrational because
Correct.
our brain goes into survival mode. Oh my gosh, I'm
Correct.
gonna die.
Correct.
Like this pain is so bad that I'm
Yeah.
gonna die, or the pain of maybe I'm gonna lose my kids, even though there's
Or just your
nothing I
sense
can
of
do.
self. Your sense of
Yeah.
self gets distorted.
It's just so bad that you can't really think clearly.
Correct.
And that can happen when people have fleeting suicidal thoughts too.
Ooh, yeah.
And so calling a friend, calling a lifeline, a mentor, a coach, a therapist, a pastor, wherever you feel safe. Not everybody's a safe person. Not every place is a safe place, but finding those people that can be your anchors so you don't do stupid things or risky things and put yourself in jeopardy.
Sort it out. Yeah. Good points. We kind of went on that little. I like that.
No,
Thanks for sharing.
This might be too much, but when I found out things were happening in my marriage, she would go after classes and see somebody, and so I would go, and she would have to drive by my office to go home after her class, and I would go hide in the trees. This is weird, at lunch, and wait to see if she drove by, because I was sure that she was still doing what she. And so you started doing crazy.
It's just part of grief. It's not really abnormal though. Frankly, a lot of people do things like that. Like they'll just go look for the car. They'll go to the places that, it's not abnormal, but is that gutting anguish?
Right.
And we don't really know what to do, but we want to do something.
Right.
And I just kept it from everybody.
Yeah. And you're being told something different than what your reality is.
Right.
And so when you try to piece that reality together, it does make you wonder, doubt, question. I think that's all normal things that you're experiencing. I've been there where you're like, that doesn't make sense. And then you get a love bomb later.
Right.
So then you're like, oh, it can't be that bad now, because now you point something out and they don't want to take accountability. Then you go backwards and then you're happy for a day, and then he's doing it again, or she, or whoever. It doesn't happen in
tricky.
one day. That's what I mean. They can happen in one day, but
Right.
I think over time, you just, especially with narcissistic ability, and I'm learning about those, you just start to learn the details and training of what you go through that helps you to label the pain, the anguish, the craziness,
The confusion, the
complete and utter
because they're
confusion.
saying one thing and then they're, and it's very difficult, especially if you're like, I'm a very literal person.
Yep,
like
me
I say what I
too.
mean what I say. It's,
Right, right.
and so when people are really incongruent and it's all the manipulation.
It's a plan. And
It's
weird.
taken me a long time, and there's levels of it, right?
Sure.
Certainly everybody's not a narcissist, all of that, but like maybe if somebody's coming at you with agenda, whether it's a friend, a boss, somebody at work, a partner, it's taken me a long time to stop being so duped and stop being so dupable. I'm just like, my family, they make fun of me, and they also were like, Mom, what is wrong with you? Like, because I'm very smart and I'm very intuitive sometimes. And then sometimes I just believe people and absolutely take them at face value, because I'm just that person where good or bad, I'll tell you all about me, what's good or bad about me. I'm just very transparent. And a lot of people are not. Even the people that say they are, I find that, and they may not be realizing their own agenda. There may be like, they've come from some hard things, whatever. And so it may be a subconscious pattern where they've come in temporarily to whatever, and then they're out. And I'm just like, wait, what? That's weird.
Well, I just have learned like exactly what you're saying, whether it's family or past relationship, is the actions speak louder than the words.
Yes.
So I think we all could be trained better on watch for those actions. You said something earlier, Sheli, that was key in, I believe too, that God will shut that door and then open another one if it's not meant to be, even though you might have to shut yourself out of that door several times before it's finally like, that isn't working.
Right.
That was never supposed to last, or that door is closed. Stop trying to find another key. No, it doesn't open with that remote control. Like, it is closed. Right. And I think that is something to also, like, he is going to, believe what you see, and you can make it through anguish, pain, sorrow, all of those things, because it wasn't meant to be.
Right.
So
yeah, a lot of people do this bumper sticker life coach, which makes me absolutely
what
insane.
Is it?
Like, one of them is, well, if the door doesn't open, kick it down. I'm like, okay, you might be arrested because it's maybe not your door. Maybe the timing's not right. Maybe God is like blocking you and trying to protect you because he sees that staircase ahead and you don't. And so, yeah, sometimes we run up against something and it's like, oh, he's, testing our perseverance, and, there's just obstacles we need to get through. But stopping and really meditating, praying, whatever your thing is on that, to say, is this an obstacle for me to push through and find another way? Or is this something for me to surrender and let go of and quit trying to force it? You can't force someone else to change. You can't do their work for them. That's their journey. It's really their business. And so if it's not a fit, so I see people just trying to force people into fitting with them. And it's like, dang, that's just not going to work unless the other person chooses.
It's hard work.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
You mean personal development?
No, just hard to make somebody else see you.
You can't.
In the way that you thought it was going to be, or that you just keep working at it until it's going to blossom, and it won't. So, I mean, everybody can change.
Sport.
I think it's. We talked about the difference between growth mindsets and fixed mindsets, because you can reshape, you can reshape and change behaviors, but it takes effort. And what is it that they say? This is, maybe we haven't talked about this, but someone said to change a habit, good or bad, 66 consistent days.
Is it that long? I thought it was 21.
I had 66. So like, even the simple thing, I'm trying to like do something like, how do you guys fold your arms? Like, if you were to just casually fold your arms, like, is it left over right? But then try to do it the opposite way. It's so awkward. But if you did that 66 days in a row, you might just automatically go to resting that way. Just simple things changing.
So we're going to take a break.
Okay.
And if my niece is listening, Crystal, she said that I sounded like a sloth on here. So if you're listening today, I'm trying to talk faster so I'm not a sloth.
I love Crystal already.
And when we come back, we're going to talk about life after being a car salesman.
Can't wait.
We're really not taking a break. I just wanted to do that so we could take a break in the show. So
Gotcha.
Anyway, so what was it then, the car dealership you said, one day you said, I got to get out?
You know, I had been in it for a year, and when I first came aboard, they actually had a testing assessment thing, and I tested very high for finance, which isn't really a surprise because I'd come from finance.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's a great job, finance and insurance. They make great money, and they don't have to be on the lot, you know, sweating or freezing to death. They're back in the office and they get the deals, and then they sell the insurances and warranties and all of that. And so, you know, after I'd been in about a year, I went into my GM, and I was close to my GM. I had a good relationship with them. And I sat down and told him, yeah, I remember when you told me that if I was ever interested in F&I, you know, that I should come talk to you. And now that I know the car business side, because I actually didn't want to just try to learn F&I. I was like, I need to learn this business, and then I'll be better if I decide to do that. So I said, yeah, you know, I'd like to talk to you about it and hear more about it. And I'm not kidding you. The next thing that came out of his mouth was, are you going to have babies?
This was a non-interview.
And I'm thinking to myself, he said that. He actually can't say that. That's total sexual. That's like, that's like textbook sexual harassment. He didn't just say that. And I said, well, not right now. I mean, I wasn't even dating somebody.
Not on the lot.
You know, like, not.
I'm not planning on going into labor in 9 months, but thanks.
I mean, not that it would ever be really an appropriate question. HR would be like having a heart attack right now. But like, it would never be an appropriate question. But literally, I was just single. I'm doing my thing. And like, am I ever going to have children? Yes, probably. I would probably will have babies one day. I mean, it was insane. And I can't remember the rest of the conversation, but I remember just in that moment going, cool, I'm out. And I remember going out of his office, and I walked around on the lot for a while because I was so angry. And because I knew, you know, he had just done a really bad thing that you're not supposed to do. Yeah. And then I thought to myself, you know what? Good. Because he was my next poncho. Lane, God rest his soul. He's not alive anymore. But Lane did me a big favor that day because he expedited me getting the heck out of there. Because, you know, obviously if that would have been, because in that moment, as I'm walking around in the lot and thinking it out, I'm like, I wouldn't want to work if somebody actually has that attitude. Like, you know, is going to be resentful and weird if I ever had to take maternity leave. If it's actually great to know that that's going to be a fixed mindset that's inflexible of this boomer boss that I had, who, you know, I was a top performer. And so it was all great up until that moment. And so all of a sudden then, if it was going to, you know, somehow affect him negatively, I just saw where his priorities were, for sure.
Absolutely.
And so I was like, that's great. That's great for me to know that, because we did have a really good relationship. And, you know, kind of up until that point, I mean, I left well, but like, I just knew that, that wouldn't be a good transition for me here. This kind of wouldn't be a safe role for me. So good to know. And I'm out.
This is so impressive. I just need to take notes on this because I tend to, like, if someone shuts me down, I'm like, but why? So for you to say it like this is a blessing. Like, I need to start saying these shut doors or this rejection is a blessing.
Yeah. What am I being protected from?
Yeah.
You know?
This happened for a reason,
right.
Like one that you can actually write out.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Well, and to be able to say this isn't rejection. So many people have come from so much rejection that's a trigger, like an abandonment trigger, rejection trigger.
Okay.
Good news, I had great parents.
Yeah.
So I didn't have as much. I have more of that as an adult now from having friends and even some family, like, you know, give me some abandonment issues now. But coming out of childhood, I didn't have that. And so in that moment, I was just really angry at first. But then as I walked around in the lot and calmed down, I just realized this has nothing to do with me. I have every bit of ability to do that role. So I didn't take it as, I just took it as a really limiting belief and old way of thinking on his part, and really saw it as, well, that's too bad for him because he just lost a really, really good person that was totally pro company, pro client, you know, and, you know,
Love how you look at it.
Too bad.
Love how you look at it.
You know, and it was good because it got me out of there. And, you know, then I started doing some things at home because I was, I got married shortly after that. I started having kids. And so then it was like, well, I better start a business because I don't want to be, working 50, 60 hours a week anyway. So I started selling reptile skin handbags on eBay. I know, very random, right?
So cool.
I thought you were going to stop at reptiles.
I started selling reptiles.
I was selling reptiles.
They're amazing.
Illegally on it. No,
How would you like this pet?
Like vintage 40s, 50s, 60s. I can't even remember. I don't know. I was like looking for a side hustle and I didn't know.
Where did you find these at to sell?
So a lot of times what was funny was I would buy them on eBay and resell them on eBay. But anybody really good at marketing and selling understands a lot of it's presentation. Correct. It is that I would clean the bags. I would restore them if they needed restoration. And a lot of it was I learned a lot about online marketing doing that. It was taking the right pictures. It was editing them correctly. It was the copy, right? It was putting everything about it and the dimensions and all the things that people would want to know and getting it to the point where they didn't even have to message me with questions because I answered all of it. Right. So I really, without realizing it, learned a ton about marketing. And shipping and handling, which I can't stand. I mean, I remember just sitting there, packaging and like watching really depressing, like Lifetime movies or whatever and going, oh my Lord, like as an extrovert, it was kind of horrible. Like I was killing it, but it was such an introverted job, which it was a blessing that I was able to do that when my kids were younger. And it kind of got us through the recession and some of that stuff when that happened because all my other contracts canceled.
Wow.
And, my partner at that time, my kid's dad was, in a business that the business greatly reduced in a commission business. Yeah. So basically 80% of our income went away overnight. And so I was able to just boost up. People kept buying handbags. I'm like, okay, I don't know. The world's falling apart, but like they want their handbags. We want a handbag,
reptile-like.
Yeah. And because it was online, it was going out everywhere. I mean, we weren't doing all the things online back in the last recession, right? It wasn't like everybody wasn't Zooming and doing all of that. There wasn't all these digital funnels back then, but eBay was there. Yeah. And so luckily I had hacked into that niche before the recession and then I just doubled down. And so it was a real blessing to be able to do that, but it taught me so much.
That just reminded me of a story. I bought a land deed and it was probably only like 3 or 4 inches by 5 inches. And it said it was from England in 1685, but they didn't know anything about it. And I bought it for like $20 on eBay. And I get it home and because I'm fascinated by this little document that's, 300 or 400 years old or whatever it was.
It is cool.
And I started researching it, but I could not find any of the information where it said it was located in England. It was actually in Maine. So it was an American document. And the guy that had sold the property was one of the guys who had voted that whoever was on the Salem witch trials had voted that she was not a witch. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden I've got all this background that wasn't there before. And I think I sold it like 3 years later and I sold it for like 10 times what the value was that I bought it for just because it had context.
Because you could tell
the story. And it had real story and not just random like, oh yeah.
You had provenance.
So I was going to say.
Provenance, thank you.
History made you some money.
Yes.
Well, and being able to be a good storyteller.
Right.
Which is still the best way to teach, preach, sell, inspire is stories.
And I love Antiques Roadshow.
And of course the Salem witch trials. Like who wouldn't want a little piece of that?
Well, and especially if he voted to save a woman.
Right.
Exactly. Like
he's
a hero.
Let her burn.
He's a hero.
I think a lot of them did.
And I just
do you wish
remembered
you still
his
had
name.
that?
I do.
Yeah,
his name was like
more.
Arlandican Simmons or something like that. I just remember. I haven't thought of this for 20 years. And
well, you might have to message and say, hey.
Right. Can I have it back?
Can I have it back? Are you hard up? Will you take a deal?
I'll give you back
cash money.
What I bought, like, what you bought it for me for.
I think I paid $20 and I think I sold it for like $350 or something.
That's
He'll probably
cool.
like, yeah, I'll sell it to you for $1,000. I'm like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
That is cool.
I fall asleep to 2 shows generally, America's Test Kitchen and Antiques Roadshow.
Antiques Roadshow is really fun. I got into the auction business when COVID hit because all of my contracts canceled. I was an in-person girl. So Keynotes, right? Working with teams, doing CliftonStrengths finders, which is my obsession. Helping people hire and, coaching up teams, teaching leaders how to coach up their teams. But every contract I had was in person. I wasn't doing this online at all before COVID. And so I was the very bored girl when everything locked up.
You're like, this is not going to be my thing.
Yeah, it was not good. So on my bucket list was to go become an auctioneer, because why not? Actually, the reason why was more because of the nonprofit space, going to all these galas, and like it's always all these guys,
Sure,
and
yeah.
most of them are pretty old, and I'm like, they're gonna retire any minute or something. And so I'm like, where's the chicks? Like, they don't even have, even
Where am I in this setting?
even the ringman. That's what it's
Sure.
called. People call it bid spotters, but in the business it's called ringman.
Yeah.
And I like to say ring human personally, but there was no women around. And I just thought I like men, but I'm just like, where's the chicks? So literally during COVID, I go to Montana with a bunch of young cowboys from all over the nation who kept thinking I was somebody's mom the whole time. And I'm, there to learn how to auctioneer. So
Tell us more. What did you do? Because I've been to several. And one that I recently went to was the Festival of Trees from the Canyon County.
Yes, I was there. Oh, Canyon County, I wasn't there. I
Oh,
was
this
at
one, the Ada County. And it was fascinating.
Yeah.
Like the whole team came, like you said, the ringleader, and he disappeared at the end of the night, but the rest of them were still trying to gather up some, hey, we have some more of this and a little more of that, and let's auctioneer the centerpieces, and still trying to get who's the best bidder at the table of builders.
Yeah, very traditional thing that's been done for about 1,000 years, I
Correct.
think. I'm kind of trying to bring the what's new to the space,
Tell
because
us
I
more.
think our young adults are not going to be having it the way we've done it for years and years and
Oh,
years.
yeah.
And it's not that the way we've done it is wrong. I just think it's really gotten a little bit tired sometimes and boring, because when every event just feels like this, it's like there's all these baskets with the silent auction, and I'm like, I don't want a basket. Like, why are we still doing baskets? And the amount of volunteer hours, and it just, some of it's a little bit dated. And especially when we have so many, we have more nonprofits in Idaho than almost
We do.
anybody else in the nation. And it's wonderful. And we love our events because you can't just do that online. You want to come together, get with other Idaho stakeholders and servant leaders. It's great networking, not because you're networking. You're not being weird. It's not B&I.
together.
It's like, but you're just connecting with amazing, amazing business owners and executives and servant leaders and people that don't just talk about giving back. They actually are, the majority of them. And so these are great rooms, but it's like, there's just some archaic stuff. And a lot of it's just because we've got these guys, and most of them are nice guys, but they've just been doing the same thing for 20, 30, 40 years. And so I think to make it more intergenerational and more inclusive, I just think to mix it up, the representation on the stage could be a good thing. So we've started doing them. We just did one for Tree City Counseling last week at the Stucco Sky Center. We did one in Lewiston for a breast cancer cause. And, we've got some more conversations coming up.
How did you, what's different about yours? Like if you were to
I'm a chick. No.
It is different, yeah. But for Blitz, tell us what you do. Is it online? You get the app? Do you bid online?
No.
Okay.
Really, when you want to bring people together for a live auction fundraiser, it's people come into the room that brings that emotion and that energy. Online competitive people might feel emotion, energy because they're competitive, but otherwise, there's no community, there's no emotion. It's like if I'm bidding on a ring on eBay and my top bid is 200, that's it,
Yeah.
But if I'm in a room, that can really change. It can change with
does.
the emotion. It can change with connection. We get dopamine hits. We get, serotonin hits, and all of that connection. And sometimes you hear something about the cause you didn't know. You watch that really moving video. That's one of the best things that people can do. Not go give a speech. That's one of the old things that really kill events. But if you go do an amazing video and talk about that cause and have people talk about the change and the impact, and everybody's crying, and then you take their money, it is magic. It's magic.
We want to create that emotion. That's
It's
what the
magic.
movies do, right?
Yeah.
Like you get that in the movie.
So what-
people
music
don't
and
regret
the
giving
movie.
to charity.
No, they don't.
It's
They
like
don't.
there's
They're
a lot
happy
of
to
things
do
we
it.
can spend our money on, but
Right.
not only is that a tax break, but it's like if you're supporting something that you really believe in, whatever those kinds of causes are, like we need that right now.
Yeah.
In this world, some businesses are struggling, but some nonprofits are struggling too. And so like instead of just spending your money at Chandler's, not that that's wrong, I love Chandler's, but it's like I could also be spending my money on that ticket at that event. And even if I raise a panel for $100 or $200, I can't always go buy the big trip. But when all of us come together, we start to really make a difference for especially the smaller nonprofits, not the big hoity-toity ones that everybody goes to, but some of these smaller ones like what's it called? Gosh, Katie Marshall. Dream Factory, and it's for these kids that have these struggles, and they may not be terminal right now, but they've got really hard life challenges, and most of them probably do have shorter lifespans.
Like a side of a Make-A-Wish? Like
it's similar to that, but like Make-A-Wish is a little bit more.
Sure, they're very
right. And this is a little bit more
admin.
like, you're in a wheelchair, your life is really limited, and they probably will have limited lifespan, but it's not quite as urgent as like the Make-A-Wish. It's a really cool thing, but it's like, man, rallying around a cause like that. Like I donated to her, and that was online. She was selling these raffle tickets online to send this girl and her family on a trip because they've been surgery after surgery, and she's been in this wheelchair and kind of crawling through life, literally. Right. And, if you can make moments and precious memories for not just her, but for her whole family when they've been through so much, like, what a huge difference that can make. So, I think the what's next to fundraisers, instead of having 5, 6, 7 hour fundraisers, I think people want them to be a little shorter. I think sometimes getting away from that silent auction and just doing a fun happy hour with live music or comedy or just something else.
I love it.
That's fun
the
and elevated.
Go to, tonight's proceeds go to this family, or tonight's proceeds go to the Make-A-Wish Foundation or the Women and Children's Alliance, or sending
the Nampa Family Justice Center.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever toured that place. I can't believe I've lived here as long as I have, and I didn't even know all that they do.
Okay.
They're one of 20 in the nation that serve like women and just people suffering from some kind of abuse in the way that they do. And it's unbelievable.
What's it called? Nampa Justice
Nampa
Center?
Family Justice Center. And they partner with the city of Nampa. Okay. So when you go to their facility, like if somebody goes there because they've been abused, like a police officer can come right to that room and take their statement. They don't have to go to the police station. They have a medical room. They don't even have to go to the hospital. They could do an exam right there. They've got social workers that come. Everybody comes right to you because they're all in this building.
That's awesome.
And so there's incredible things that we can participate in. Right. And I want to keep seeing these events going, but I keep seeing them. It's like we kind of keep regurgitating these same things. I think it's one of the things that really deserves like a bit of an update. Like keep the things that are working about it coming together and having the dinner and having a fun theme or whatever, but let's update some of it to be more intergenerational so that our kids and our nieces and nephews want to come and continue that giving.
Yeah, that definitely takes community for sure.
I went to an auction for the YMCA in Wood River, and there's money there, and it's a huge tent, and they had 5 auction items, and they were a trip to Mexico. All those people owned a place in Mexico, and they literally weren't selling anything, but it was when the paddle raise. And somebody just said, I made 20 grand, and one guy goes, I'll do 50, and like 4 hands went up for 50. And they were there to donate,
right?
Not
they were there
to buy, a
Get
wine
their trip.
gift or whatever. So there's Sotheby's in their auction style, and then there's the cowboy with the
right.
What's your style?
And, a lot of the guys kind of came from the era. And again, most of them were trained either 40 years ago or even, like we've got a younger guy around here, but he was still trained by the older guys, right? So there's a lot of that auctioneer chant, which is a little bit more the cattle auctioneer style. That's not as much my thing. I'm definitely more about just the emceeing and humor and inspiration, which a lot of those guys don't do as much of that, really.
Right.
And so I'm a little bit more about like, let's lift up the cause. Like, let's not try to make it as much about me as the stage person. Like, you want to be entertaining and you want to do those things, but it's a lot more about them, and not me talking about myself.
You're emceeing the event.
Right. Yeah.
That's cool.
Sometimes they have an MC, but like, I bring, all those years of speaking and I can sing, I can do comedy, and, people like all of that entertainment sprinkled in. And yet there's a tipping point where when you make it too much about you, you're kind of stealing the thunder from that cause.
I agree.
And I've seen that. Yeah. And I just think there's a better balance that people want today. I think they want it to be a little bit less about the guy on the stage.
Well, and it's so easy now with GoFundMe. I mean, you have all these other events this is the GoFundMe program. And we used to raise money for when I was coaching. It's the only way we could go and play volleyball in a different area or take a trip, and families constantly are getting, hackled by, we need more. Right. But when we could make it more awareness in the entire school, you're giving to, the program, we had a lot more participation. So
when did you told me a story once about how you got into comedy. Can you tell us that story?
So as a speaker, I always put a lot of humor in my stuff. I mean, I learned a long time ago that like people will listen more, right? If you do, and my family was funny growing up. And so it was kind of a core value. It's like, we need to laugh. Otherwise our heads are going to explode. Life's hard. Like we've got to laugh more. And so I put a lot of stuff and I met somebody at one point that had been involved in improv and some comedy. And she was like, you should do this comedy contest. We used to have it downtown before COVID at Liquid Laughs. Is what it was called. And there's Liquid and then there's Solid is the restaurant.
Like 8th Street
It
Marketplace.
is, yeah. And it's so there's still a bar down there, but they just don't do comedy there anymore. But every year they would have this amateur comedy contest. And I was just thinking, I mean, I was like, no way, absolutely not. I mean, it would just sound like the worst idea ever. Like you have one goal, make them laugh.
Make them laugh.
And if you don't make them laugh, you failed, you suck. Like worst moment ever. And, you know, as a speaker, there's a lot of ways you can go. Right? A lot of ways. But as a comedian, it's mostly, you know, they've come with certainly an expectation to laugh. And if it's just not their cup of tea or whatever, you're screwed. So I was like, no, like heights and sharks and comedy, like these are the things that scare me. And no. And I got into my car and I was so afraid of that notion and so locked down about it that I decided I should probably do it. Because I'm like, man, not that many things scare me.
This is totally opposite of how a regular person thinks.
She's like, that's what I'm saying. When the door closes and you're like, yes,
she's extra.
Thanks for closing the door on me.
And I want to say she's extraordinary. So I'm not saying anything negative.
Oh, thank you.
But it's not how a normal person thinks. That's how I would be like, no. You told me I should
She's
try
like, what are you telling me, Kevin? I'm not normal. You should take that.
She told me I should do it. I'm like, nope.
Right.
And I haven't changed that.
I said no
6
first.
months.
But you know what? I've got a lot of friends that told me no, and guess what? All of my best friends I've gotten to do stand-up comedy. And every one of them, even
they've
the
done it
hardcore
too.
ones. Oh yeah. In fact, we're planning one at the end of June.
Oh,
we're planning
have to come.
If you guys want to come, I'll send you the invite because it's going to be like a private invite.
Yes.
I think the theme's going to be adulting.
Okay.
Because we can go a lot of different ways with that. No children allowed.
Awesome.
But no, it won't be naughty. We don't, you know.
No, but fun.
But
awesome.
fun and just adulting. And so even people are like, no way. But speaking, comedy, these are all things you can learn. You're not born with it. It's not just certain strengths that work with it. It's, you know, comedy is a very strategic thing. And a lot of it's about the writing.
Right.
Hi, writer.
So
do you know
tell
any
us
writers,
the difference.
Kevin?
So Kevin. So improv is yours, and you are making a script for that, different than like a dry bar where you're just going up there.
Improv?
Yeah.
Well, improv, there's a team.
Okay.
So that's one difference.
Okay.
And you're playing off of each other.
Okay.
So that's where the yes and comes from. They always say that. They say, it's, so if I say, oh, I've got this parfait,
Sure.
you don't go, no, that's not a parfait. Like that's like against the improv rules. You have to say, oh, and I love the fact that on your parfait is
You
peanut
have
butter.
this, yeah.
And it's like you're adding. And so you're kind of making this collaborative, you know, in the moment sketch. But sometimes they will practice, but they practice so that they just have flow with each other and they know each other and they just kind of
Like
have
effort.
a comfort level and kind of get over some of probably the anxiety and the fears so that when they do it in public, that's why there's improv teams. Like, but they'll ask the audience, like, what should we talk about? And they'll take the cues from the audience because they haven't worked it all out ahead of time, but they have practiced the games ahead of time so that they have most of it's mindset. When you can get past that fear of feeling naked on a stage, which is exactly what it otherwise feels like this terrible idea and I'm going to swan dive and fail. You know, it's very different than having your PowerPoint that you always give your talk on and you're a CPA and you teach people how to do QuickBooks, whatever it is, like that becomes a comfort zone. And this is very different. Right, to switch sports is kind of like, it's like if I'm a great athlete over here and then I switch sports, it feels very awkward because you know there's going to be some sucky moments. You're not going to hit it out of the park right away.
Right.
So if you're willing to be uncomfortable and feel like a fool and be like, yeah, this is terrible. And then if you're like me, you don't just do comedy, you do comedy contests, which means it's not just a room full of people automatically judging you like we do. You have actual judges judging you that tell you about it.
Go.
And so, yeah, you just go all in.
That's so great.
And if I would have known how hard it was, it's one of those things, kind of like personal development. If I would have known how hard it was, maybe I wouldn't have done it. I'm glad I was kind of naive walking in. Because it was the best thing ever. I met amazing people. I learned amazing things. And now literally I've been hired quite a bit to do comedy shows, and I never thought that would happen.
So where do
that
you
wasn't
perform?
my goal. Events.
Where do you go? Events. Okay.
Events. And I've done events in Seattle and Colorado, and
So you've traveled.
I'm thinking, how do people even know I do comedy? They follow you online for a while, and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, she's a clean comedian. We could bring her in instead of having another speaker, or you know, when people want to mix things up. I mean, nobody regrets laughing, right? You don't go home and go, doggone it, I just laughed too much today, and that's just a disappointment. You know, like,
Dang, I should have held that in more.
it's a release, it's a dopamine hit,
is.
and we're in such a serious world, and we've got so much pressure that I feel like laughing, and it regulates our nervous system. You know, so does exercise, so does
I
crying.
love it when you get a good
But,
belly
like,
laugh
man,
and you
it's so
can't
good.
stop. And yeah,
It's so good.
Just
So there's
make yourself-
just being hired to be a comedian, and then but you're using it kind of that, but you're using it as a speaker. And
Yeah,
using
for
your
sure.
comedy.
That's where I use it mostly,
Right.
because you know my main stick is not definitely comedy. It's, you know, doing keynotes, and then, you know, doing
Right.
team building things, executive coaching. I mean, one of my contracts is I work for Russell Brunson. He's the co-founder of ClickFunnels. It's digital marketing, and he has masterminds. These very high level masterminds, and these people are awesome. They're entrepreneurs from all over the world. They've all done $1 million, or some of them do hundreds of millions a year in their funnels. And so I'm a mindset, kind of well-being and teams coach. So I'm kind of their confidential, safe person to call when they're like, I want to fire my whole team. I'm like, well, let's talk it out, and let's see, is anything salvageable, or can we rethink this? Or, you know, if it's a partner or a spouse, or they're just having an identity crisis, because even people with a lot of wealth or who've had a lot of success, the imposter syndrome, I've noticed it almost just gets bigger. The more you level up, as people like to say. It's like, that imposter syndrome doesn't really go away. I think it's just that thing that taps you and says, stay humble, keep learning. You're never going to know everything. And I don't think it's to shame us and make us feel like we're not capable. I think a lot of us metabolize it that way. Oh, I've got this imposter syndrome. What does that mean? It means you're a human. And stay humble, keep learning. That's what it means. And just go. Like, if you've got the strengths and you keep feeling that nudge and you're willing to do the work, do the thing.
You said
go ahead, Kevin.
No, I was just going to, I heard something this morning on the radio. It was kind of funny that you say stand naked on the stage. There was a comedian that told a story. He went on a cruise and he found out it was a naked cruise. And so he was
Is
a
this
comedian.
real?
This is real.
A real
and
naked
so
cruise.
he is a comedian. And so he
way.
would get up in the evening and do his show fully clothed, but everyone in the audience was naked.
Oh, my heck.
I don't know what country that cruise went out of, but I have never
Well,
heard of such.
I think he said it was a private thing, but it's funny because
You
that's what
think?
you hear. If you're afraid of talking, just imagine your audience naked
That could be very
or in their
distracting.
underwear or whatever.
I totally would be like, you. My blockers would be on. I don't know that I could do it.
So anyway, I just thought it was funny.
Interesting.
That's crazy.
Oh,
I
I was
interrupted
gonna.
you.
No, you didn't. You're just fine. I was gonna ask you more about the Clifton trainer. Like, what is that? Because I've never heard of it before.
The CliftonStrengths.
Clifton Strengths
So
trainer.
it used to be called Strengths Finder. And
Okay.
so it's an assessment by
Okay.
Gallup, and it's
Like
by
Gallup poll.
Gallup Research Company.
Okay.
But Don Clifton created it. He's a PhD. He came back from World War II. I mean, you like context in history. So he came back from World War II and he was like, well, that was hard. I want to do something to change the world and make it better. So he went to university to study psychology. And what he found when he got there was everybody studying psychology was studying what's wrong with us. Like all of our genetic dispositions to, you know, tough things, or like the life hard things or traumas, if you will, that can give us all the triggers and all of that. And he's like, why nobody is studying what's right about us? And so he decided that that was what he was going to do. And so he kind of is considered the grandfather of that movement of all these, you know, psychologists that started to study what are the most right things about humans, what makes us succeed over and over again, what makes us fulfilled and happy versus like burnt out and depressed. And so they put years and years and years of study into it and created this assessment. And it used to be called Strengths Finder, so a lot of people still call it that, but it was renamed, I don't know, 5, 6 something years ago to CliftonStrengths after Don Clifton, the founder. And what I love about it is it's a psychology test. It's not a personality test. So a lot of people, you know, DISC is a good starter test, but it's not a very good deep dive. And I know people that like DISC get mad at me, but it's a good starter, and it's got the 4 categories, kind of like strengths do, but this one's so deep and so wide if you really understand it. A lot of facilitators don't. I found I'll go in and teach behind them, and I teach it really different because it's like But as a life coach, over 20 years, I'm probably bringing a lot of that personal development context and understanding. And then, being an entrepreneur and having a lot of different experiences, I can bring kind of all of that to that assessment. And then, that's what I'm writing a book on right now. So
congratulations.
Thanks. I'm excited about it because so many people kind of either misunderstand these assessments, they misuse them. Like for hiring, some people will be like, oh, we want to hire the right people and get them in the right roles because they realize there's a lot of money lost.
And training.
In all kinds of things, in liability, in things ending badly, in you hurting your culture. I mean, there's so many things that affect it, but they want a quick fix solution. And so some people even use DISC, and I'm like, oh gosh, don't use DISC. Because they'll be like, oh, I hired a D once and they didn't work out, so I'm never hiring a D again. I'm like, oh my gosh, they are so much more than a D.
Yeah.
Well, there's just so much more than that. It's just that's
sure.
a very superficial way of looking at something. There's a lot of different context and data points to look at when you're hiring somebody. What is their resume? How do they think about life? What's their attitude? What are their strengths? But I like to look at the Strengths Finders report is you've got 34 strengths. We all have all of them. You're not limited. You're not in a box.
Okay.
You're not labeled. You're not a D. You're not a red. You're not a dog. I'm like, praise God. Let's not.
You're not blue and I'm yellow and we just can't make it work.
Because
and you're red and I'm white and we can't make it work.
Well, literally, if you're in a room and you do those with people,
it's exciting. But
people will start making fun of each other. Oh, you're a dog. You're an owl.
You're
It's just
this.
we just label. We obsess about labels because we want to control and understand things. But really, it gets us more into that fixed thinking. And actually, these things can evolve over time. So we talked about evolution. Well, these Strengths Finders, a lot of Strengths Finders trainers tell people, oh, they don't really change that much. Yes, they do. I've seen them totally change over, throughout different experiences in your life, your growth, your development. If you were in an oppressive situation and now you're not anymore, some of your more natural state will rise up because I have the freedom to be who I really am and answer honestly on an assessment. So there's a lot of depth to it to use it correctly. And if you use it correctly, it's fire for hiring or dialing teams up or sales teams or customer service things. When they're used wrong, it's actually one more way you can discriminate. One more way you can screw up who you hire or don't hire. But you're patting yourself in the back because you're like, check, I did this. But it's like if you're trying to snap on a quick template for that, it's just not the way. So I'm like, okay, there's a gap in the marketplace I can see where this is really kind of not being used correctly. So if I can unpack it correctly and help people, find the value in it and save more money, make more money, save heartache and emotional distress. I think we could really use
save
that.
time, right? Everything.
Save
money's
time, save energy, save drama, save conflict.
Right.
It's really an amazing tool when you understand how to use it.
So there's 34 strengths we all have.
Yep.
And they're ranked.
And they're in
a certain
order.
way. Okay.
Yeah, when you take the assessment.
Okay. So is the goal to keep high on your top 10 or is it to bring up these lower leveled strengths to make him stronger?
Well,
so we're all leveled out.
The goal depends. No, the goal is whatever your goal is. So if I pull up my strengths, like before, when I first took it like 16 years ago, I had like command, focus, achiever.
Okay.
So I was like, raw, I was very competitive when I was younger. I had to be number one, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not as much like that anymore. I'm a lot more kumbaya and collaborative. And so you can just see my learner went way up.
Okay.
But I intended to do that. I started really in blocking out time to learn and going to things to learn. And I intended to really cultivate that muscle, if you will, so it ascended. And so we'll find that with people, right? Yeah. My empathy came up higher from when I took it before because the more I work with people and understand people, the more empathy I have. Right. The more I know. So, if you're open to learning and growing, they will change more than if you're fixed. If you're fixed mindset and you don't go learn and you don't go get new teachers, you don't go have new experiences. If you're very rigid,
just stay status quo. You're just going to stay status quo.
Yeah, they may not change as much.
We saw a hand raised in the audience.
Just because that was
quo.
me. That's what I was saying. That's me. So
no.
So is it almost like your love language for yourself? Do you know what I mean? Because you have everybody has a different way they feel love, and is this just saying this is how I am?
I think it's
that particular time.
It's one way. It's one way of describing kind of like a big part of who you are. I like to say it's how you lead and love the world. Like we all contribute. right? We all contribute, but how we go about that, how we approach the client, how we approach the solution is very different. And most of the time it's not right or wrong. We go to right or wrong very quickly because like, oh my gosh, I'd never do the client this way. Well, that's because you're you, turns out, with your strengths. But like somebody, you know, if you're more relational and influential and somebody else is more a strategic achiever, you're going to approach a client totally different, but you could potentially both sell.
Correct.
You're just going to go about it very differently in your strengths. And so I think a lot of it's just understanding who am I really, not who have I been told I should be or shouldn't be, not what I think men or women should be. Like these aren't about gender. Yay. They're not about your age. They're not about what culture you grew up in or how much money you have. They're just at the point at which you take the assessment, if you can be really aware and honest, they're the truth about you in that moment. And so I can really hunker down and figure out, oh, this is a good career for me or not, or job, and part of that's based on the direct report too, because certain personalities can work under a direct report that other personalities wouldn't do as well. Like it just wouldn't work as well. So we can just so much more objectively, I think your confidence goes up, your love for yourself goes up. Some people, once in a while, I have people really react negatively to their strengths, but that's usually because they've been told these are bad.
Or they've kept themselves in their tunnel vision until they can see, I do have that quality. I'm really good at that. I just haven't exercised it. And now all of a sudden you're like, I really would be a good investigator, or I would be a really strong, detail-oriented person, or I would be great with the financials.
Right. But a lot of us have been told by someone or someone's along the way, oh, you should do this, or you shouldn't do that, or women don't do this, or
you're better at that. You're better at this. And you're like, oh, I must be better at that because it's somebody I look up to, or I'm somebody that I'm partnered with.
And so, and we evolve. And this is another thing that people get really wrong about these assessments. Like I've been surprised once I figured out how much they can change. I've started asking people to retake them. Like when they come to me with 8-year-old strengths, I'm like, I can't even take this seriously, because like, even when I'm going over it with them, I can tell it does not hit the way somebody that's just done it, who is very aware and honest when they take it, because they're all great strengths, right? So just be really aware. And it's like, what's the truest answer for me in this moment? That's the mindset. It's not like, what am I supposed to answer? And some people will do it that way when they're taking it for a job. What am I supposed to answer? Well, then you're probably not going to get your strengths. So it's kind of a bogus exercise. But I can tell it lands better for people that have really done it and they're really aware, and it will just hit for them. Whereas I was doing it with somebody from Russell Brunson's Inner Circle. A few weeks ago, they were all here in town. We were all masterminding at the Boise Center. And when I found out how old his assessment was, like some of them were still, again, we all have all of them. So he's got them. He's probably still got some of those pretty high, but they weren't just like, I could tell he wasn't just like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and part of me was just like, I just feel like I'm doing a disservice. Like if you haven't taken this within the last couple of years, you have evolved. We've all been through so much the last 5 years. Think about how much we've all been through, how much has changed for all of us. I don't know of anyone that hasn't had a lot of change, and that's not wrong. It's just true. So who are you in this moment? Embrace that, because sometimes we have limited thinking from, oh, well, I'm such a heavy achiever. Like I used to have command number 1, which is one of the most rare strengths. It's like a lot of CEOs have it and all of that, but like now it's like 12 or 14. I mean, it descended quite a bit. I used to even say to certain people, I'd be like, I think I have a baby C. Like, I don't want to be like in charge of huge things or be in charge all the time. I just like to do my thing. I like to be in charge when I'm doing a thing. And so it really went down because it wasn't this big core value. But maybe at the time I was more in that driver kind of achiever. What can I accomplish mode?
It was your reptile bags.
Maybe. So it's like,
I got to bring in the income. I'm doing this 24/7.
Yeah, for sure.
This is how I'm doing it.
So sometimes seasonally, right?
Yeah, your experience.
Times of our life, different things do ascend. And sometimes things kind of go down for a nap, or they're dormant a bit because maybe that's just not what's going to work the best in the environments that we're in, or we don't feel that permission for some reason.
Now I want to take the 34 strengths and see where I rank. I should.
How do you do that?
So you go to, I don't have an affiliate link or anything.
Okay.
Darn it. I wish I'd be retired by now. But if you go to CliftonStrengths, I might put this out there. Just put in CliftonStrengths.
Okay.
And it's an international bestseller. It's available in 30 languages. I highly suggest you do it in your primary language, because otherwise it's a timed assessment and then you have to like
as opposed to your
convert
fifth language.
My fifth language.
Ordered in
Me
like Japanese.
and my fifth. Well, and then you said something. Is
Like for people that are bilingual, this is important actually. They should take it in their first language, because it's a timed assessment. And if you have to convert it first, which is what the brain does, first it converts it to the primary language, and then it tries to figure out what's the most true answer. There's not enough time. It'll time out on you. And so you can't be working, you can't be double tasking, you can't have kids around, because
shut it down and take it honestly.
You've got to shut off those notifications and have 25 minutes of completely undivided time.
Well, that's good. It's only 25 minutes. I can fit that in.
Totally.
But your book that you're writing is about how to process these. It is good for you. So you'll get that in there.
So tell us more about that.
Yeah, I want to
know.
know.
So it's called...
Look, can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
So for those who don't know...
Okay.
There's the personality test, which you take it and you're red and blue or yellow and white or whatever. And it kind of gives you your little thing.
That's the
and
Hartman.
Who you are. And that's called the Hartman.
Hartman.
So what's the one you were saying, the goat or the owl? What were you talking about?
I know Gary Smalley did one that was the animals. It was like, and when I did the personal growth thing, they used like an animal one, because it is an easy thing in the room. There's kind of 4 main categories a lot of these assessments use, so it kind of helps people start to think about it and break into those 4 categories. The challenge is a lot of people will be like, but I have more than one category, because we do. We do. We're not like a one-trick pony. So that's why the strengths are nice, because it's like, you've got all these strengths. So we kind of focus on what are your highest and best strengths. That's where you really want to live. Gallup says 80 to 85% of the time to have like repeatable abundance and success, because you have these other strengths, but they're lower. So it's going to take more energy for you to pull those up and out. I like to think of it like tools in a tool belt. So the ones at the top are your bigger tools, and you have the smaller tools, in the tool belt. And then it's like, what strength, if I pull out a chainsaw when I need a hammer, it's not going to work as good, even if they're both great strengths. So this is another part of the learning that a lot of people get wrong. I mean, sometimes they're using a sledgehammer when it's like, we need a little screwdriver, and you're sledgehammering it.
And if you're better, like here's how I work, is you're better at the sledgehammer than I am.
Yes.
So this task, you'll thrive, and I'll be your support, but you're going to nail this.
Yeah, you're going to run
I'm going to be the nail. You're going to take that, and I'm going to take this. So I feel like that's delegation, and then you can get to collaborative efforts when, hey, you're better at this strength, and you should run with it. I'm better at this one. Let me run with this. And that way you're not trying to be, in my mind, I'm picturing commando. I got to do it all.
Right.
It all falls on my shoulders. I've been there, like those feelings. But if you could just know the other people in the room or other people you work with, whether it's family relationships or your partner or the people you work with in your work setting and your clients, like you're going to be way better at this. It's like someone gave me the analogy of building a house. I can't be the foundation guy and the roof guy and the framer. And I mean, I could, but the house won't be expert luxury.
Right.
So I think there's specific things that make that shine, and we all come with it, like you said. So I am fascinated. I'm going to take it. I'm going to be
how hard is it to, are there people who try to answer the way they want to be as opposed to what they really are?
That's why
totally.
I have these mindset tips, and I'll send them to you guys before you take it if you want, because a lot of it's like, I mean, the bottom line is, what is the truest answer for me in this moment? But that's easier said than done, because we've been so conditioned by others, by the training, by the industry we've been in. So, and here's the thing, it'll say, are you more like this answer or this answer? Like on the left, it's this answer. On the right, it's this answer. Or are you neutral, kind of like 50-50? Well, I'm both and. I'm yes and. I'm both and. And a lot of times you might be both. And so your brain will go, I'm both. Cool. 50-50, then neutral. Or there's these little buttons in the middle where it's like, well, I'm a little bit more like this. Or I'm a little bit more like that. And so
you just time out on me.
But the reason it does that is because it doesn't want you to overthink. You know, this is a teacher. What happens with multiple choice?
Yes, it's horrible.
People overthink it, and they usually say a lot of times if you change your answer, right? So you've got to be really self-aware and realize there isn't a wrong answer if it's true for you. Like sometimes it'll say like, I'm just giving you an example, but it's like, do you really think about what you do before you do it, or do you like to be with people? And you're like, some people are like, I'm both like literally.
Are we going to
50-50.
ice cream or are we going to be shoveling the snow in the driveway? Like which
but
one?
some people are a lot more
Sure.
one or the other.
Sure.
Right.
And so you just have to get out of your head. I
Sure.
mean, think about it, but then go. Think
Okay.
and then go.
Okay.
And you don't want to answer it as what you want to be when you grow up. I feel shame that I should be more strategic. Like, that's not how you answer. This is
Got
not
it.
what do I want to be when I grow up, or what am I working on? Because if you work on some of those strengths, those may ascend over time, but it's the truth for me in this moment, not the past. Like, if you look at me in my 20s, I was way more competitive. I wasn't mean. I was just super competitive. I was just like, I'm going to be number one. I'm going to break the company record of the most loans ever closed in a month. I'm not like that now. I don't want to work 80 hours a week and kill myself. I'm also not 20 anymore, right? So, like, seasonally, we change. So you don't want to answer the way that you've been, and you don't want to answer the way that you think you should be, or somebody's told you. It's just, what is the truest answer for me in this moment? And so that's why you've got to really not have the notifications on and be really focused, but then just pick your best answer and go.
Okay.
If you get really in your head, it will time out.
So you're writing a book.
Yes.
Tell me what is that process like for you? How do you do it? And what's it about? And what, just kind of the process of writing, and how do you approach it?
It's funny because this is my third book, but the other ones, I never launched them. Like, I just wrote them like most authors. Like, we just write a book. They were like, well, now I don't really know what to do, because it's a whole thing to really market your book and all of that.
It's harder than writing the book.
Oh, absolutely.
The marketing part?
Oh,
yeah.
heck yeah.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
otherwise it's not going to go anywhere. Because
Yeah.
unless you're a celebrity, and also you don't make money on books. They cost you money, but they don't make you money.
Right.
They might get you gigs. Like, if you can get it out to the world, like for me, this could get me the speaking gigs, or the panels, or, the consultations for the people that want like the deeper dive and all of that. Sure. But for me, this has been the hardest book, because the other ones were like my legacy maker. I feel like this is my difference maker. This is the thing that I see a hole in the market. I see the need. So I'm so excited about it, because I think it'll be great for my career, because I think it will open a lot of doors, but I'm an impact girl. Like, I am just, sometimes to a fault, I'm just like, I want to make a difference. I'm here to leave this planet and everybody I touch better than I found them. And I'm just
cool.
So over the top about it, but I finally found the tool that I feel like helps most people more than most other tools tied together that I've found. And it's not the answer to everything, but for me, it's the foundation to everything. Like, it's a huge part of our identity that we get wrong a lot. We have a lot of misunderstandings about ourselves and others, and this helps so much with that. Again, without putting people in a box, because they can shift and change over time. So it's like, here's your highest and best in this moment, and here's how to leverage them, but you're not trapped by them. And you're unique. Like, there's a 1 in 33 million chance you're going to have the same strengths in the same order as someone else. So you're unique, which I think we like to be unique, but we don't want to be tethered to some label. So this does all of that when you really understand it. So whether it's hiring the right people, whether it's how do I, make more money in sales, or, build my business, or who do I hire, or how do I have a better marriage? How do I understand my kids better? Right. I've used it for conflict resolution. I did conflict resolution with these 2 girls in South America before COVID. And they were so mad. They were working in a missions organization. They were so mad. They were like, one of us needs to go home because we're so mad. They were working on the same team. And I used the strengths and, some other things as well. And then I left, and then a couple of months later, I heard that they were now best friends. And then after they got done with their like tour of duty, they were roommates.
No way.
And so, I know that doesn't always happen, but it just goes to show you, like, sometimes we are so dug into the way that we think about it, and the way that we feel about it. And of course we're passionate about that, because we understand that. Sure. But this is the thing, like, you're not supposed to judge other people, but we do. That, it takes all kinds, but it's frustrating that people do everything different than us. And so this gives people context and a framework to have more grace, have more understanding, give people more space to do it their way and be magical, understand themselves better. So conflict goes down, understanding goes up, even like respect. It's beyond tolerance. It's about celebrating each other's differences, even though sometimes it is hard. It's beautiful. It's like amazing that like you love spreadsheets. Well, God bless you. Like, blah, like
Have at it.
unless it's a Strengths Finder spreadsheet, it just shuts my spirit down. So I'm like, I love you that you love that.
Right.
I feel like this is off subject. I feel like you're going to be laying on the floor at some
know,
point.
right? It
Your
just
mic just keeps sliding down.
Okay.
Oh.
There it is.
Mine is doing
and
like
the book is called
It's called Millionaire Strengths.
Millionaire Strengths.
And when is it going to be out?
Good question. It was supposed to be February. So my goal is by the end of June. That's my new goal, because I mean, I had a coach actually help me realize that even though I was really clear about my avatar, my target market when I started, that when I was writing it, because I've been teaching it for 16 years, I just kind of went into it like I teach. Well, a lot of times when I'm teaching, I'm going over somebody's strength. Even if I'm in a room of people, I'll use your strengths as a muse, as a catalyst, and I'll be going over your strengths, which is much more individualized.
Got it.
And so I kind of forgot, a lot of it's directed at leaders, trying to affect people that affect many, many people. So
Give them the tools to train.
Well, and so because they can touch tons of people and
Correct.
give them the tools, right?
Sure.
If I help one person at a time, I'm not going to create the kind of systemic change in our organizations, in our schools, in our homes that I would like to see happen. Our churches too.
Yeah.
So if I can get to leaders and executives and decision makers, they are the ones that affect a lot of people. And so I feel like I could just have more impact. And so, so I ended up rewriting a lot of it.
That's
and
cool.
so
Is it all on the computer? I mean, how do you write?
I write with voice.
Okay.
I speak it.
So you could do audio. Like we'll do an audible.
Yeah, I will
Yeah,
definitely do
for
an
your
audible.
book.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I do it,
Yeah.
And I walk and I talk because it helps me use my right and left brain
Right.
when I'm moving, kind of like when I'm speaking. And I'm,
Use your hands
and when you're walking, there's more blood flow, there's more cognitive firing power. So I have done a lot of different things, but instead of sitting at a desk and typing or writing, and then if I'm tired, I can't write anymore, but I can speak. If I'm moving, I can just speak from my guts, from what I know. And then you can always go back later, as you know, being a writer, you can edit later. You can add to, take away from, you can put in stats.
Right.
But, getting that first really raw organic dump out is really important to me.
Right.
Because it's a lot more me than if I'm like, when you're typing or you're writing, we go back to school, I think, subconsciously, where you're worried about grammar and how, all these things. And when I'm speaking, I don't worry about all that. It's like I can fix all that stuff later. Just
Right.
get my message out.
Which seems like that is the best way to do it now. ChatGPT can help you with all the grammar and everything else.
Yeah, I haven't done it as much on AI just because there's a lot I use AI a lot. It's just I don't use it for the book, not yet. Maybe it will help me edit at the very, very end because I'm a little bit worried about it going out and then pieces of my intellectual property
goes to the whole system.
Right.
Yep.
And so because I don't understand, I've heard a lot of different theories on what goes out to these other servers and what doesn't.
Correct.
So I'm not writing the book with
You want
it's not
authenticity.
I'm writing it, not AI. But I'm sure there's like even closed source on your computer when you're looking at your Google Doc or your Word doc, and then you can use AI closed source so it's not going out there. It can help you see grammar errors, or I'm sure it will definitely expedite that part of the process for me.
I'm afraid of it for that perspective.
Yeah, I don't want you to lose what you've done. That's your work. That's your story.
I did take my first novel and imported it in and made a screenplay, which did it in 20 seconds.
It's amazing.
And I mean, it wasn't perfect. I'm going to have to go back and
Of course.
fix things, but I mean, it was just like, what?
It's super cool.
And that was your goal. You're like, I could have done
I was
that
like,
in
that's what I
20
was trying to do at
seconds.
the
Ding,
beginning.
ding, ding.
It is amazing what it can do on
Yeah.
things like that. Like I did some commercials for the Humane Society because they were wanting to sell more tickets with their gala. So somebody reached out and I'm like, I'll do some funny commercials. And so I literally put in my ideas, and then it helped me kind of mastermind. You just go back and forth with it and zhuzh it up. And then I was like, put this in a format where it literally can give you, if you're videoing it, can give you all the lighting cues, all the AV cues. It can, because you can tell it,
And it's like, what do you use to do that? What software? What I mean?
That's ChatGPT.
I
See,
just
I
type
have
it into
never-
Google.
I've never done that.
I'll show you.
Oh, yeah, I'll show
I
you
can show you how
too.
to do it.
It's awesome.
It's super
I'm
cool.
afraid of it.
I do
on
it like
some
my
level.
list.
You're only
listings.
afraid of it till you do it.
Yeah, just
Everybody that's afraid
give it a
of
little
it,
try.
it's because they haven't done it.
Our logo, when I
Yeah,
figured that
yeah.
out, And because you're literally writing a story. I want a wooden bench with an ice cream cone with the microphones, and then all of a sudden it's like, there it is.
Yep.
It's kind of magic.
And then you can change it, because I'll go to, I'm selling the Gallatin floor plan. It's 3,056 square feet. I have 4 bedrooms. Every bedroom has a separate entry. Everyone has a Jack and Jill bathroom. Like, I get this amazing, like, I put everything in. It's my stuff. But then the way that it programs it to like put it in my listing with only so many words is
it's amazing.
Magic.
It's amazing.
So then I just, okay, I'll take it. Thank you so much. That's exactly what I was going to say. And then boom, the highlights.
Yeah, I've not done it for writing.
Welcome to real estate.
For video and for
yeah, you don't have
Photos.
to put intellectual property on there, but like these mundane dumb tasks, like I need to write an email and there's got to be all these different pieces in it, or create a contract. The other day I was like, oh, I need to create a speaker's contract for this gig and I haven't done it and I don't have time. Then I was like, oh, except I do, because ChatGPT's my new business partner. And I'm literally like, state of Idaho, blah, 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 here's the date, here's the venue, blah, 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 and whatever else I haven't thought of, because it can look up state of Idaho laws for, you know, and then you have to edit it. You have to look at it. But literally it was like, bam, here's your contract. I tweaked a couple things. Bam, I sent it off. And it was like minutes instead of whatever it would have taken
Gosh,
me.
I need to do that on my invoices. I've got 3 of them to get done for my staging that
It's
I did
amazing.
this last week. I'm going to try that. Thank
still
you.
scares me a little bit.
So what
But
I love,
but that's not intellectual property. Why you're only scared because you haven't tried it and it's not magical yet.
guess what Kevin's going to do tonight?
I'm very much a visual learner, and I think I just have to do it.
Experiential.
And see it. Yeah.
You're an experiential learner. Me
Right.
too. So we'll show
Is
you
that
things.
part of the 34 strengths? Experiential.
Experiential.
Yeah.
So one of the things I
Experiential.
learned, it's a hard word. In fact, it used to be in my bio until people kept introducing me as the experimental facilitator, and I kept having to correct him. Finally, I'm like,
Experiential.
then the whole audience goes, wait, just going to experiment on us? This sounds
They're like,
terrible.
and I come out with my lab coat on
Yeah.
and my big goggles.
So I had to take that out of my bio.
Gotcha.
But
Experiential.
when I first did personal development, it was a 3-month-long deep dive experiential experience.
Okay.
So it wasn't like, let's go jump up and down and get all jacked up on music and walk on coals. And then you go back to your life and you're like, wait, but there's more. This was like 3-month-long deep dive processes, one-on-ones and in the room and out of the room and all kinds of things. It was experiential. It was hands-on. And so instead of just thinking about things, like a lot of people think they've done a lot of personal development, but a lot of it's they've read books and they've listened to podcasts, but they haven't done anything outside of think about it. And thinking is one thing, and you can get growth and you can get ahas, but experiencing things, like
go do.
talking to other people or doing things. And I mean, you know, the list goes on and on of all the things that we did. Ropes course is one example, right? A ropes course. I mean, it's one thing to talk about overcoming fear. And if you're like me and you're terrified of heights, it's a whole other thing to go do the thing, right?
I'm taking you both cannoneering.
Nope.
Yeah, I
Nope.
just
Nope.
did it. Guys,
That's okay.
I was so scared, but you can do it. It's amazing.
Oh, I know I can. I just know I won't, because I'm like,
Shelley, I'm
there's not-
putting you in my backpack. We're going.
there's not enough of a payoff. I have to know there's enough of a payoff. Like I'm
it
not one
will
of those.
be.
To me, it's also bumper sticker life coach was like, do something every day that scares you. I'm like, I do. I get out of bed and I have children. That's terrifying. I don't need to. I'm not going to bungee jump. I'm real clear.
No.
Like unless God changes my. There's not
No.
enough value proposition for
There
me.
is something.
No,
She
for
just-
you. For
she
you.
just climbed
Yeah.
to Angel Falls.
Yeah,
and
Angel's
Zion's.
Landing.
Angel's
Yeah, all my
Landing.
team, if you're listening to this,
Cool.
thank you so much for encouraging that. That was amazing. But
No, thank you.
But the cannoneering part is the second day where I panicked, you guys. No joke. I wasn't feeling well. I'm like, I don't think I can take the first step backwards off a cliff, even though you tell me I'm on a rope. And so that was the anxiety that you have to get over, so to speak, but also scared. I don't think that I like roller coasters. I'm okay with that. So I don't know that it was heights. It was just the idea that I'm stepping off a cliff and I got to make my way down. And when he shows us the rope, here, I'm going to do a demonstration. It's no thicker than this pen.
I've done rock climbing, so I do.
Yeah. And it
it's-
was like,
yeah.
he's like, this is all you
Scared.
have between, you're not going to fall. You're going to be okay. We're on those clips at the top. And of course I let everyone go first. Like, you guys go first and then let me see the ground. So the first cliff, you see the ground, but then cliff 2, cliff 3, cliff 4, I don't see the end. But because I did the first one and then let somebody else go in front of me, then I know I can do it.
Yeah.
So It was, I would do it again. I will do it again. And
Good. Have fun with that.
I would never bungee jump.
I'll
I've heard
watch it.
something.
I'll watch it from the bottom.
Okay. Well, it was great. I thought it was canoeing that I signed up for. It was canyoneering. And that is what made me, I was like, I thought it said canoeing in Zion's National Park. And my sweet friend, Nubia, if you're listening, and she's like looking at me. She's like, no, you jump off cliffs. You dance. Now we learned it's dancing down the cliff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And I signed up. So
That's
it was awesome.
Heights.
Canyoneering. Snakes. No, that's different.
And worrying that there'll be a bathroom needed and there won't be one available. Those are my three
like being
worst.
stuck on a boat without a bathroom.
I mean, I suppose, but I feel like maybe you could jump overboard if you needed to do something. But
no.
And I won't even get it.
So
I won't even get into the who's and the whys and the whats.
Yeah, that might be good.
But
we need a bathroom on the boat.
It's a weird thing. Like,
well, we all have fears, definitely.
Right.
And some of them we're not going to overcome. Like, I'm not going to go pick up a snake. Like, I mean, I'll pick up a gardener snake, but the ones in the cobra or poison, no thanks.
No.
But spiders also not a fan. Although I've had to help my daughter rescue. She'll scream, Mom.
So I think I was correct at the beginning. Dan Clark has got nothing on you.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thanks
so much.
I was going to say
in.
you hit the target, because when we talk about why we do this show, ice cream for breakfast, we want to learn. We want it to be authentic, and you hit those no problem, but also changing lives. Like, you've done it. You've shared with us in this little time that you've changed yourself several times. And when a door closes, I feel like it's your opportunity to see where you can grow and where the flowers really are in the valley, and just a matter of taking that first step. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay.
Ice cream for breakfast.
Rollo over.
Rollo.
Okay.
What everybody think of the Rollo, by the way? The Rollo ice cream. You're good?
Oh,
Yeah, I
it was
liked
it. Like it?
very caramely.
It did. It tasted like a Rollo.
It did. It was
Probably because there was Rollos in it, I'm guessing. It wasn't just caramel and chocolate. It actually tasted like a Rollo.
yeah, the whole ice cream bite was a Rollo.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. Till next time.
Okay, signing out. Thank you, everyone. Cha, cha, cha.